Have you ever stopped and just wondered if the money in your bank account is actually making you richer? Or is it maybe secretly costing you your peace of mind? Well, welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're diving into a truly fascinating, deeply philosophical critique of the modern financial system. It's based on the work of Rafael specifically his book Joyful Money. Kosciuszko offers this incredibly unique perspective. He argues that our entire economic structure is actually suffering from a deep psychological and even spiritual crisis. Today, we're going to break down his macro theories on wealth, his highly personal micro journey, and his proposed framework for fundamentally changing how we interact with capital to find, well, actual fulfillment. Let's get right into it.
To really set the stage for Kosciuszko's argument, we have to look at this incredibly powerful quote from billionaire Aristotle Onassis. He once said, "A rich man is often just a poor man with a lot of money." I mean, wow. It perfectly captures the core paradox we're unpacking today. Why does material abundance so often go hand in hand with a profound scarcity of happiness? Kosciuszko asks us to really step back and consider if the very way we view, acquire, and hoard wealth is actually impoverishing us on the inside, leaving us totally hollow no matter what the balance sheet says.
So, Section 1, the banker's crash, from millions to emptiness. You see, to actually understand Kosciuszko's broader macro theories about global finance, we first need to look at his own micro, personal journey. It's literally the foundation for everything he proposes.
Okay, let's dive into this. Kosciuszko didn't start out as a philosopher, right? He started as a fiercely ambitious banker. Back in 1975, while he was stationed in Ecuador, he noticed this really stark contrast. He saw the extreme material poverty of the locals, but it was paired with this genuine, visible happiness. That observation definitely planted a seed. But, the allure of the financial world is strong, and he spent the next few decades chasing extreme wealth anyway. And he succeeded. He built a highly successful investment fund in Miami, living a life of absolute luxury. But then the economic fallout of 2001 and 2002 forced that fund to close. Dealing with that intense emotional whiplash, he tried to aggressively recoup his losses with highly volatile commodity trading. He was just desperate to win it back. But then, in 2006, the silver market crashed and it completely wiped out whatever wealth he had left.
Now, this total loss sparked a massive personal awakening for him. He found himself staring at this incredible contrast. On one hand, he'd spent years holding millions on paper, completely defined by financial accumulation and external success. But on the other hand, when all that paper vanished, he was left with total emptiness. He realized he was emotionally bankrupt. This devastating crash forced him to confront the hard truth. His external success had completely masked a deep underlying inner void, a void that money could never actually fill. Moving right along to Section 2, the psychology of money, the disconnect between wealth and well-being. This is where his personal crash builds into a much broader analysis of the psychological toll money takes on all of us in this modern capitalist system.
So, I want you to ask yourself this directly. Why do people chase money so relentlessly? I mean, is it just to pay the bills and keep a roof over your head? Or is there some deeper, hidden motive driving all this exhaustion? Kosciuszko argues that we've kind of become addicted to the chase, mainly because we mistakenly believe money is the ultimate source of our emotional security. We basically treat it like a shield against the world.
And this brilliantly illustrates that exact disconnect between our expectations and reality. Kosciuszko points out that we chase money expecting it to bring us love, recognition, inner security, and ultimately freedom, right? That's the dream. But what does the current system actually deliver? Fear, greed, constant anxiety about losing what we have, and frankly, enslavement to a system that constantly demands more. He argues that our dependence on money fundamentally traps us instead of freeing us. It keeps us in this perpetual state of psychological lack, completely regardless of our actual net worth.
Which brings us to Section 3. Inherited money, inherited suffering, the weight of unethical wealth. This introduces one of Kosciuszko's most provocative and honestly fascinating concepts about the historical and generational weight of capital.
Here, Kosciuszko introduces his philosophical concept of negative money energy. Now, just to be super clear, it is absolutely crucial to view this strictly as Kosciuszko's own alternative spiritual framework. It's his theory, not hard objective fact. He proposes that wealth acquired unethically, whether through exploitation, war, or deception, actually carries a negative energetic charge. According to his theory, this negative energy doesn't just, magically disappear when the original earner passes away. Instead, it transmits psychological burdens, dysfunction, and deep suffering right down to the descendants who end up inheriting that money. To ground this rather abstract theory, he shares a very gripping, deeply tragic anecdote from his own family. Basically, before World War II, his great-grandmother deposited funds into a Swiss bank, funds he actually believes belonged to persecuted Jewish families. Well, for 85 years, the bank blocked and held those funds. And during those decades, while the money was just sitting dormant and trapped, Kashika's family experienced severe, generational suffering. We're talking deep depression and tragic suicides, including the devastating loss of his own brother. In Kashika's theoretical framework, that blocked, unethically held money was intrinsically linked to his family's generational trauma.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how he applies this theory to other ultra-wealthy families. Let's look at this Italian heir case study. A grandfather makes a massive fortune manufacturing weapons during World War II. So, profit derived directly from destruction and human suffering. He then takes that money and invests it in these vast, beautiful Italian estates. Yet the subsequent generations who inherit these estates end up suffering from severe depression, divorce, suicide, and eventually total financial ruin despite having massive assets on paper. Kashishke argues this is a direct symptom of that negative money energy. That wealth born of suffering ultimately breeds more suffering for whoever holds it. But Kashishke doesn't just critique the system and leave us hanging. In Section 4, the Health and Wealth Institute, Kashishke's systemic solution, he outlines a very tangible framework to clear out these generational blockages.
He outlines this physical and ideological institution called the Health and Wealth Institute, and it's built on 3 core pillars to facilitate a massive societal shift. First up, the Education House. This focuses on genuinely helping youth discover their true inner potential and life purpose, rather than just rote memorization. Second, the Health House, which promotes physical and mental well-being through alternative, holistic methods. It's about treating the root causes of our societal anxieties, not just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms. And third, the Money House. This is dedicated to teaching a completely new understanding of money, recognizing its inner value as a tool for human connection and growth, rather than just some external measure of competitive worth.
So the absolutely crucial point here is the ultimate mission of this institute, which is neutralizing that negative wealth. Kashishke proposes a fund for the common good. The whole idea is to take trapped, historically unethically sourced wealth, kind of like the funds that were finally released by the Swiss banks to his family, and consciously invested back into society. By deploying this capital to build schools, health centers, and support young entrepreneurs, he believes we can actively transform that historically negative charge into positive, life-affirming momentum. It's essentially about using these resources to heal both the economy and the human spirit at the exact same time.
And this systemic solution leads us right into our final paradigm shift in Section 5, shifting to joyful money. This is Kashishke's ultimate global vision for how we can function as a truly healthy society.
He breaks down the practical steps that society, and honestly each of us as individuals, must take to transition into an economy of what he calls joyful money. Step 1, you have to recognize that your true capital isn't sitting in your bank account or your stock portfolio. It's your inner potential, your creativity, and your unique talents. Step 2, we've got to actively do the psychological work to let go of that deep-seated survival-based fear of financial loss that drives so much of our greed. And step 3, we must begin using wealth not to build giant walls of security, but to create positive, joyful societal impact. Money should flow like water, nourishing the ground it touches, rather than being hoarded away in stagnant, fearful little pools.
I absolutely love this quote from John Ruskin that Kashishke highlights in his text. The highest reward for our efforts is not what we get for it, but what we become by it. It just perfectly emphasizes the ultimate takeaway here. True wealth is found in personal evolution, not material accumulation. The goal of our work and our lives shouldn't just be what we get for it, right? It should be what we become by it.
Which brings us to our final thought today. I really want to challenge you to evaluate your own relationship with your finances right now. Is your money driven by fear or by joy? When you save or spend or invest, is your motivation stemming from the anxiety of not having enough, or is it driven by the joy of creating something meaningful for yourself and others? Kashishke's work is a powerful reminder that we literally have the power to redefine wealth entirely on our own terms. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this sparks a joyful shift in your own life.